What's going on, Internet? Tony Tucker here, host of the Fifth Down NFL newsletter, joined by my good friend, NFL Mike. Want to talk about Week 14. We're going to look ahead to Week 14. We're going to be talking about our favorite bets, picks against the spread, game of the week between the Bills and the Lions. Before we get into anything too crazy, I just want to say that I was already a fan of Travis Hunter. The pivot interview that I just watched, put me over the top, Mike, where I was like, and I actually I'm very skeptical of anybody thinking that they can play both sides of the ball at the rate at which he's playing both sides of the ball in college. Yeah. But I kind of left there going, you know what? Maybe he can do it. Maybe he can play the Dolphins. Channing Crowder said, maybe you can guard Tyreek Hill and then go on offense and get guarded by Jalen Ramsey. Meh. I mean, it's probably not a great strategy for a 17 to 20 game season. It's probably not super likely, but I left it going man, I'm rooting for Travis Hunter. I hope you end up in a spot where they let you try it and we get to see how the experiment works out.
A rookie at that too. You're asking a team to give a rookie that much confidence and freedom and space. And we've seen some really good corners struggle in the league right now this year. And we've seen some really good receivers struggle in the league this year. And if he starts to struggle at both, it could get really ugly. That's why I think, especially when he's a rookie, let's keep his offensive usage to trick plays and red zone. And let's try and get a moment in the end zone or something. And if we're going to start leaning into that more, let's get the kid some experience at his primary position. If I was a team, it would be corner if I'm picking where I wanted to play.
I think I would too, just because it's way harder to find that, right?
I think he's better at corner too. Yeah,
sure. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know enough about corners. Like every year a cornerback comes out into the draft, the process, and we're like, oh, this guy's going to be a player, Booth for the Vikings a few years ago, Kair Elam, some of these guys that come out in the draft were like, oh, he's got all the height, weight, speed. You watch his film, and then they get to the NFL, and you're like, Joey Porter Jr. is another. It's like he has really great games where he looks like top of the line player, and then all of a sudden it's not quite the same thing. Let's get into actual NFL conversation right now.
Yeah, because only the Raiders fans right now should be talking about the draft. That's it.
Oh, I do not want him to end up on that team. Don't ruin his career. Don't go to Vegas. Let your buddy, your brother Shedeur end up there. So last week, the NFC West, I think, is going to get that final spot. You know that game that we always look forward to, Sunday Night Football, when we get to see that team that's like win or get in. I think it's going to come down to the NFC West game. The Seahawks kind of put the nail almost seemingly in the Cardinals' coffin, and the kiss of death. Every time I back a team, and I'm going to do it again in this show, sorry, Vikings fans, just a little foreshadowing as to what happens when we get to third down. If I back your squad and I'm not a true fan, it is the kiss of death for me. I did it to the Cardinals 3 weeks ago. But the Rams take care of the Bills at home. The Niners take care of the 49ers at home. And Mike, I just want to ask you, which win was more impressive? Which win do you think is a better predictor going forward for this division for the rest of the year?
I think it's the Rams win, obviously. They beat the Buffalo Bills comparatively to who the 49ers beat. You will say, though, that the Rams defense didn't look very impressive in that game, but Josh Allen's just out there running around like a freaking madman. Who can stop Josh Allen right now, let alone, the Rams defense kind of been middle of the pack all year anyways. I expected it. We were talking about it last week. This game, very hard to predict because we expected it to be high scoring. I don't even think we even expected it to be that crazy. I give the Rams a chance also because I always look at the pocket. And Matthew Stafford has just shown that he's going to consistently put it together. And, yeah, they're going to run into good defenses. The Rams have run into injuries this year on the offensive side of the ball to keep the record down as well. It seems like when everyone's out there and they're fully healthy, they have a shot against anyone. And I think the Rams can still win this race down the stretch. One thing I do hate, Tony, is the NFL for doing this to us on Thursday Night Football. every week, it seems like. I hate the NFL. I hate Amazon. Thursdays, we should start putting the games that don't matter on at this time of year, not the games with the most playoff implications between the hottest teams that are, fighting for their lives. Like, you put this game on Sunday and it's going to be absolutely amazing. You put this game on Thursday, it's going to be a flag and injury fest and it's going to get ruined. Or
It's
Thursday.
funny that you say that.
Yeah, I hate it.
Jeff Bezos is like, I just wrote $1 billion check, and you want me to have Titans Jags on Thursday?
That's what I'm saying. I hate Amazon in the first place. Get out of our freaking. Get your hands out of the jar. You guys are a delivery company. Like, stop, bro. Like next week we have Chargers Broncos on Thursday. The Chargers have to play the Bucks, an extremely tough team. The Broncos are playing for their playoff lives against the Colts. Both games, both teams are playing with everything and putting everything on the line, and then they have to play 3 days later.
Yeah, and I think that like both of those, in that situation, both of those teams have tough games, right? Because they're all 4 of the teams in those 2 games are competing for wild card,
everything.
Division,
it's it. Now or never. Yeah.
One of the topics almost on this show this week was, can the Colts catch the Texans, right? Because the Texans have a super tough schedule with the final 4 games, I believe. And then you look at the Colts, and it's like, if they get past the Broncos this week, they could go on a 4-game win streak and be stealing a playoff spot, which breaks my heart because that potentially could be from us, right? Like they could finish this year, the Colts, at 10-7 and be right there in the mix with everybody else. But to stay on topic with Rams and the 49ers, like I'm going to argue for the 49ers win being more impressive because they did everything they were supposed to. Like they brought in a 3rd running back, Garendo, who was fantastic in this spot. They got George Kittle going. Jennings is still there. Like the defense showed up and played. This is the game that we've seen from the 49ers over the past few years where it's like, oh, they just beat the shit out of their opponent. And it's like the whole time there's nothing they could do. I don't know if the Bears had a first down in the first half. Like I had the game on and I was just like, I picked the Bears. My picks against the spread. I had the Bears.
This is most Bears games, Tony's in the first half. This is every Bears game.
That's what I kept telling myself. I kept going, you know what, Tony? It doesn't even matter because Caleb Williams and the Bears are a second half team. And the second game half, and they were just like, the 49ers were just beating the shit out of them.
It doesn't make sense.
To me, that felt like classic 49ers. It was like Brock Purdy was out there just playing really good football. And I think one of the things I took away from that game was both teams that fired defensive coaches, their defenses got dramatically worse the moment that they were gone. Robert Saleh leaves the Jets. The defense for the Jets just got way worse. Eberflus leaves. The Bears defense didn't look good. And I mean, things have already not been going good for the Bears, but the defense was kind of the one side where I felt good about it, not after what I watched last week. Moving forward, let's get into this game right here. Which way are you leaning? I know it's a short week. Injury reports are getting there, getting finalized. It's really hard to tell on a Thursday. Who do you got on TNF this week?
That's what I was about to say next, Tony. Since you're back in the Niners here in this argument, I'm clearly back in our LA Rams. I looked for some Rams gear. I got some somewhere around here. We should go ahead and put this as our first picks against the spread because I'll take the Rams +3. I will on the road in San Francisco on Thursday. I think that they are the harder team to prepare for on short notice, and they're going to put up a ton of points in this game on the 49ers defense. That struggled against Caleb Williams in the second half last week.
So if I had to pick the spread wise, I probably would take the Rams. And the Rams are my Super Bowl pick from the NFC. I want them to win. So I'm picking them. There's just something about watching the 49ers get back on track. Debo coming out saying like, hey, I'm just not getting the ball. Does that mean that maybe there's a little bit more of a game plan with him where now Garendo, who I talked about, who was so great, he leaves the game with an ankle injury. They have Israel Abanikanda, a player that I really like come out of the draft, who's been, not getting much run with the Jets. He ends up with the 49ers. Like, do they need to lean on Debo kind of having him run the ball a few more times this week and in a must-win situation on a short week. So I
heard Debo's putting on some size. Maybe that's why.
My head, I'm not gonna. I am the last person to talk about it. Somebody else's weight issues. I've battled them my entire life.
Well,
you could tell.
I thought he was preparing for running back.
Christmas season form right now.
It could be muscle.
I'm not carrying muscle. I'm gonna. You know what, Mike? Let's have a friendly wager on this one. I will take the 49ers.
There we go.
You can have the Rams, but I am rooting for the Rams there. Oh my goodness. Here we go, Mike. In this second down now, when I heard that Belichick was like flirting with the idea of the North Carolina job, I was like, this is Belichick just letting everybody know I am going to coach next year. And if you are serious about having, one of the best coaches of all time, you need to start putting it in your plans. Start contacting me, my agent, whoever, and let's just start like kind of behind the scenes working some stuff out here. Then it's like, well, he gave a 500-page plan, Bible of whatever it is. And I was like, Belichick to college? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I just want Belichick to coach anywhere. I don't really care where it is. Like, it's just fun to either root for or against him. And this would be the first time that I could remember since their first Super Bowl where I would be rooting for Bill Belichick to succeed. Like, I would be like, oh, I'm going to turn on the Tar Heels game this week because they're going to put it on Big Noon Kickoff or ESPN or whoever has the game. They're going to put the Tar Heels on as often as they can. But like, what do you make of this? Where do you land? Do you root for him? Do you want to see him back in the NFL? Like, what? Just go ahead.
I like it, honestly. I thought that the end in New England there was very, very sad. And I did not like the way that looked, just fielding bad teams year after year as a general manager and then going out there and coaching them into bad football and bad records year after year as a coach. Just was putting a sour taste on someone that I viewed growing up as the greatest coach of all time. And I think my views are starting to get a little bit more broad as I get older and become an adult. But Bill Belichick has the greatest resume in football history. I don't want to see that keep getting tarnished if he goes to the Giants and they are the same shitty team next year, because Bill Belichick brings these old philosophies in and, has his hands in the draft picks and in the cap spend. And it's just the same thing as New England, same colors and everything, just different city. I don't want to see that again. So I'm actually excited to keep him out of the NFL. This basically guarantees that Bill Belichick's not going to fail on an NFL team, because when you look at his Patriots tenure, even with the finish, complete success, smashing home run, grand slam, and that's the way we can close that book. I also think he's going to be underrated in college because I think that he's loosened up a lot, especially with all of his media run and everything. I think that's going to give him some better experience as to what the kids are excited about and how they are in today's age. And I think it's going to be a smooth transition. I don't think he's going to treat them the way he treated players in 2003. I do think he's going to be a hard-nosed guy, but if I am a dad and I have a middle linebacker prospect or I have an edge rusher that has a chance to make it to the league, I'm sending him to Bill Belichick. If I'm a dad and I have a DB growing up, I'm sending him to Coach Prime. Like, I think that these colleges are realizing with the NIL and everything, we need to go to the next level to recruit players. Like, we need to make them think that they got path to being the next guy in the NFL because they're going to go play for Coach Sanders or they're going to go play for Coach Belichick, or fill in the blank if some other guys start doing this too. John Gruden might be one.
I have so much to say on this, and I know we like to keep this show pretty tidy here, so I'll try and bundle this all together. I would send any kid that I had who played any position except for quarterback, right? Because even you go, well, what has he done with wide receivers or running backs? It's like you're going to get a lesson in special teams, which is very important to making it at the next level. Mm-hmm. Like, if you play any of those positions, if your child is committed to learning the game the way it's supposed to be played at the highest level, like, he's going to help you get those type of things. I I would go. I would probably go there no matter what. Like, I just think it would be an amazing opportunity. I do think there's a little bit of Bill Belichick, Mike, who is trying to figure out some stuff, like to get back into the league and to hang on and be like, hey, Eagles are 11-1. That's the job I really want. I just got to wait for Sirianni to fumble this bag, because if I'm going to work for a GM, if that's going to be my story, I want it to be Howie Roseman. Like, I think he kind of wants that Eagles job. And if a year, 2 years from now, he spent time watching and he's just been completely dove in on all the college game, then you make that transition there. The other thing with college is, like, there's a method that some coaches use better than others, which is using the junior college transfers, right? And I think he'd be really good at scouting those guys and saying, hey, you're coming from a smaller JUCO school, come here, you're going to start, most likely you're going to earn that position. They're going to have some decent NIL money. He's going to be able to pay him and say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to be a professional, because that's what these kids are now, is they're all getting these crazy big checks. I think he can kind of go that Michigan route where, like, every year Michigan was finding really good junior college transfers to come in and constantly have a team of upperclassmen that were ready to compete, that were trying to get to the league. And he doesn't have to do this all the same old school way where Saban was like, well, I'm going to, be in recruiting and whatever. There was one of the stories I heard was that Deion Sanders didn't go into any homes last year. And that used to be coaches' like entire off seasons. They'd be traveling around, pitching all these players on where to be. Now it's like quick little Zoom meeting with them, just saying like, hey, really hope you take our check to come here. Because that's what it is a lot for these kids. And I don't think Belichick's waiting around for freshmen. He'd rather watch college tape of a junior college player and go, this guy plays inside run really well. And we need that. The D-line, the defense, I think, would be coached up so well, so disciplined that all he's going to need to do is find a good quarterback, not even great, not even an NFL prospect, but a good college quarterback. And I think he could have a ton of success, especially there in the ACC. Add to the legacy from NFL and college. I'm excited. I think it's fun. I hope UNC does hire him, and it'd be great. I'm in.
It's interesting too how full circle this is, Tony, because remember I did that interview with Natron Means, who was I don't know if he still is going to be the running backs coach at UNC, but he was. And I was asking him about Drake May, and he was saying that he wanted Drake May to fall to the Patriots and end up in New England because he felt that UNC had already kind of instilled a Patriot style, no nonsense culture. And I was like, now that Bill Belichick's going in there, okay, and it seems like maybe these guys are going to be ready for him.
Yeah, the coaching staff to me will be interesting there because he's a pretty particular, like, I
already saw he's already like pointed, my son's going to be the heir to the throne when I leave and stuff like that's already being put into conversation.
Yeah, which, and again, I don't have a problem. I don't want to get into a nepotism argument. That's not why I go to the internet. For the record, I don't really have an issue with that. Him doing that, right? I think his kid's probably going to be a good coach and get there, and he'll either maintain the job and earn it, or he won't. Bottom line, you'll either know, can he lead a team, can he be a coach, or can he not, and it'll all happen pretty quickly. But when I saw that,
last thing is if his ability to land college women is any indication.
Why?
He'd be a great recruiter. He has a 24-year-old girlfriend right now. I mean, she's straight out of college, pretty much. So if he's able to pull, I'm just saying he might be able to convince beautiful athletes to come too.
Yeah, people were talking about his recruitment skills, and I'm like, I think he's a pretty persuasive recruiter. Oh, persuasive recruiting this offseason. The Minnesota Vikings go out and get Sam Darnold. One of the few true believers in Sam Darnold this offseason is this guy right here. Was talking about how he had a real shot. I did chicken out the last second, and I had the Vikings at 8-9 or whatever over the projected win total. Though,
you could have just left that out of it.
I know, but you know,
back.
you got to be honest. I did chicken out. I had him at 10-7, and then we did our prediction show, and I chickened out.
It's like me being so wrong about the Jets, right, Tony? And no one else was.
Yeah. Oh, everybody's running from that. Yeah. Well, we knew how could this work out. Yeah. He's 40, coming off an Achilles. It's like you weren't saying any of that shit in the offseason, bro. Let's talk about the Vikings. I think that one of the things the Vikings have done that has just been completely overlooked is like the way the GM has put the roster together, where he's like, he goes out at the end of the offseason and signs Stephon Gilmore, right? Who's familiar with Brian Flores and the system and is going to allow Flores to be a little bit more aggressive because he can trust Gilmore out there. I know Gilmore's going through an injury right now, but they go out, they get a veteran linebacker in Blake Cashman, was kind of a journeyman, but he's come there, going to have well over 100 tackles this year, playing great football, getting after the quarterback. I looked up a bunch of stats for the game. I think he's got 3-4 sacks already this season. They go get Van Ginkel, who was with Flores in Miami, and Van Ginkel is going to have double-digit sacks this season. Like, I think his previous career high was like 5.5 sacks or something before this. So now all of a sudden, you're getting these guys. They flipped Danielle Hunter for younger Jonathan Grignard. He's double-digit sacks again this year. And they are able to use a guy like Josh Metellus, Michigan man, by the way, out there flipping between DB, linebacker, kind of a smaller version of like Derwin James, but just able to cover different people in different areas of the field, which is fantastic. All of the moves they made putting together this defense, it wasn't flashy, but when you step back, you're like, oh, they have a bunch of pieces. Then you get a breakout from a guy like Pat Jones, who's trying to hit double-digit sacks right when it's time to get paid. Good work for you, young man. Offensively, we already knew they were putting together like a great wide receiver core when it just starts with Addison and Jefferson there and Hawkinson. It's like now you get something out of Jalen Naylor, a guy from Michigan State who we weren't sure how well he would play in the NFL, but he's out there contributing, balling, somebody that you have to like look out for when it's there. I think the Vikings have put together a team that is really good with a lot of names that people don't know. And then they just look at it and they go, well, Sam Darnold's eventually going to be Sam Darnold. And then he just keeps having monster games like last week where he throws for 5 touchdowns. Vikings, Mike.
I mean, am I just supposed to sit here and just go, I still want to see JJ McCarthy be the starter next year? Like, do you want me to just completely go the other way? Because I love what Sam Darnold's doing this year as well. But to me, this is signs that the Vikings are close to winning a championship or competing for a championship, I should say. And they need a championship caliber quarterback. And if you bring 14 back, you might be holding that championship caliber quarterback back from blossoming. So I think that this is all signs that if you put, or let's say the Vikings want to use their cap space and go with a short-term but upgrade from Sam Darnold to chase this championship, you go with a Stafford, JJ McCarthy combo next year, or you just go for it and you use that cap space to spend on the rest of the roster that you save at quarterback, and you put JJ McCarthy in this, and now the Vikings are real NFC contenders that don't have to worry about their quarterback suddenly seeing ghosts. I've seen him see some ghosts this year, Tony. It's not been all perfect.
Oh, no, it definitely hasn't. And we are definitely going to get some moments, some head shaking like, Sam, what was that, bro? But overall, he's playing a lot better and he's winning these games down the stretch. And I just think that, like, when you have the tools, the skills, whatever, you just need the right foundation and system in place to be. Like, a lot of these places where people are going, oh, well, what about Sam Darnold here or whatever? And I go, what's different than that than being on the Jets or the Panthers or whatever? Like, why would he want to leave? And my thought process is, like, it depends on what the Vikings do. Because I'm hearing a lot of big analysts go, well, if the Vikings go on the road and win a playoff game, and I keep going, they still get to play the Lions. What if they're at home and they're getting a playoff game? What if somehow they stumble their way into winning out the rest of the season and get a bye and get 2 home playoff games and Minnesota ends up in the Super Bowl and everybody then is like, How do you move on from Sam Darnold? But you could sign some sort of a contract with him where it's like, hey, 2 years, and then we get an out. The reason that it doesn't quite add up is because the way that they've been manufacturing the roster has been like younger guys building, getting a team to get ready for that guy on a rookie contract. I just don't think they thought it was going to go this well. We're like a hot month of football right here, and Sam Darnold could earn some MVP votes. Like that's what, if we're talking about like Sam Darnold going on a run over the next month, that could happen. I think you got to sign him depending on how the playoffs shake out. And then you just got to say like, hey, JJ, I know this wasn't in our plans, but like, let's just keep developing, keep learning, keep being ready. I don't think you can move away because, Mike, what's the one thing every team looks for? Quarterback.
You can definitely move away, Tony. They just did it. They just moved away from quarterback and went risky to younger quarterback. And the thing is if I'm in Sam Darnold's shoes and I did what I just did, I don't care that I had Justin Jefferson. Like, we're not going to bring that up in negotiations at all. Like you're saying right now, we're going to make it seem like Sam Darnold's the MVP of the Minnesota Vikings and not Justin Jefferson. Because I don't think Sam Darnold will get a single MVP vote if they got to where you're saying they're going to go to. I think it would all go to Justin Jefferson. All those votes will go straight to 18. But if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm going, you see what Baker Mayfield's making for what, 2 years in Tampa, $60 million or some shit like that? Geno Smith's contract with the Seattle Seahawks. Like, the Vikings, in my opinion, would be very wise if they're going to spend money on quarterback to go and chase a championship again. And I know that you're painting a crazy, awesome, maybe drug-induced picture of Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl, but that is, I don't know, Tony, if I believe in that at all.
There's no drug-induced about this whatsoever. Let's say they get hot, and he throws for in this final.
How hot are we talking here?
Hang on, 4 games. He's got 4 games left. Let's say he throws for 1,000 yards. That's 250 a game. He throws for another 8 to 10 touchdowns, right?
Who's throwing these two?
Hawkinson, Jefferson, and Addison.
I know, exactly.
But we all know
Jefferson's MVP case continues to grow.
We all know that it's a QB biased award. So let's say down the stretch he goes 10-2 touchdown interception ratio with another 1,000 yards. He would end up with about 4,300 passing yards, like between 38 and 40 touchdowns to 12 interceptions.
To me, you're arguing that Brock Purdy should have been the MVP over CMC.
Mike, you know that I would never do that.
That's what you're saying, though, here. The same thing in this situation.
But what I'm saying is what's likely to happen, not what I would do. I'm saying what the media forces upon us is that this is who the MVP should be. I said CMC should have been the MVP last year, and the award went to Lamar Jackson. Mm-hmm. Now this year, everybody's argument for Lamar Jackson is, well, he's doing way better than he did last year. And it's like, that's because the award should have gone to CMC last year.
Exactly.
And Lamar Jackson really is an MVP candidate this year. Last year it was about Baltimore's defense, more so, I think, than Lamar. Even though Lamar's a great player, I don't want the internet to fucking hate me for saying things that are 100% positive about Lamar.
Well, now Josh Allen's going to win the MVP, so it's all going to be fucked up.
For me right now, Josh Allen and Saquon Barkley are like
they're right there. I would love to see Saquon win it. I would.
I want Saquon to win it, and if he breaks Eric Dickerson's record and doesn't win the MVP, I'm going to be so pissed off. Because if you don't win MVP for doing that, you can't win MVP.
Yeah, it's impossible at that point. And all he's gonna hit some touchdown totals too that are pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, he is. He's. I mean, it could be even higher too if they didn't have the tush push.
And that has to be put in the context when you're voting. You have to include that in your head. Like, this guy should have 10 more touchdowns. What?
Yeah, I think so. I think the more people get into analytics, they understand like what sort of expected totals should have been. But to wrap up this Vikings conversation here, and in Vikings fans, I'm sorry, I did just put the kiss of death on your team, and it will end tragically. And I have a bunch of friends.
See how confident I am, guys? You see how confident I am in this?
Who are in Minnesota who are going, why are you saying this? Why are you doing this? Don't stop. Don't heap this kind of pressure on us. This is the one direction I think they could go is a tag situation and then trade and try and do that and say, hey, Sam, this is what we're going to do. We think we could, we did make the investment in you this year. We turned your career around. We're going to tag you. We're going to trade you, and we'll try and make it to an organization that is going to be somewhere. We won't be super greedy. We won't go like, oh yeah, this team offered us. But I can't wait when this does. If something like this does happen, there's a couple sneaky teams out there. I'm just going to throw the Titans out there. A couple of spots where I go, hey, offensive head coach could be an interesting landing spot for Sam Darnold. But SKOL right there. Vikings.
They should let him walk. Let him walk. He did you well. Just let him go.
I'm not 100% sold on it yet, but sneaky Super Bowl team. Okay. Last week, here we go. We're in a fourth down right now. And last week, my wife always says this thing where she's like, you start doing good at something and then you get arrogant. You start talking a little shit, get a little cocky, and then it backfires on you. So I go 5-0 in week 13. And I come in here and pop my collar, my mock neck, sweater. And I go 2-3 last week. Just a brutal week. I'm still over 500 at 29-26 on the season. Mike was 3-2. He is 16-10, 6 games over 500. He's absolutely crushing it this year. I will say there was a couple of picks last week that I was like, I'm sinking or floating with this ship. And that was the Cardinals at home, which was probably, I should have just stayed out of it. I should have just picked the Cardinals and said something, super braggadocious about it and just moved on. But I didn't. I picked them and they got rolled at home. Last week, Mike started. That didn't work out well for me. Since I'm the host of the show, I will be going first because I'm trying to get back into my 5-0 ways.
Well, you already got the 49ers. That's your first pick.
Week 15. I did not take the 49ers, but I did. However, I'm gonna go back to the well because it was so nice on Monday Night Football, even though it felt a little bit lucky. Dallas. Dude, you got to get away from that football. Like, I'm sitting there watching with my wife, and she's like, why would he do that? Like, she's like, why would he? She's like, did he have to pick that up? Did he have to? And I was like, absolutely not. She's like, but so why would he try to catch a bouncing ball when his player already did the hard part? And I was like, I don't even know what to say to her. I'm like, everything you're saying is right. It's like,
we're all thinking that. We're all thinking that.
But in my head, I'm like, oh shit, we can get a touchdown and cover, and Jamar Chase helped us cover. So I'm going back to that. Bengals play the Titans this week. I backed the Titans last week too against the Jaguars. I did not watch that game. I will not watch that game because there were 12 other options. I'm going to pick against the Titans this week, even though they're at home, -4.5 Cincinnati Bengals. Then the Texans coming off of a bye at home against a Dolphins team that it feels a little bit like begging to just be like, hey, just kind of let's end this conversation that we might make the playoffs or whatever. Like, the Jets should have won the game. Just watching how the end of the game was handled, there was a moment where like Devontae Adams goes out of bounds, time could have been wasted, whatever. I am going to take the Texans at home, -2.5 over the Dolphins. Then I'm going up to the Seahawks. I just keep picking against you and I keep losing. Probably happen again this week. Packers on the road, -2.5. But I think Green Bay in a sloppy game where they don't have to deal with Kenneth Walker, even though Zach Charbonnet was really, really effective last week. And I think it is crazy how good both of those running backs are and can be when they get a full complement of touches there. But I'm going to take Jordan Love in a spot to a crazy stat this week I heard from Eric Mangini. I think it's 3 games in a row where Jordan Love has less than 13 completions. Let's bring that number up a little bit. Let's get Jaden Reed involved in this from the slot. Let's try and get him out there where he gets a chance to use some, his routes. And if he is drawing Witherspoon in the slot there, then we can go outside. We need a big Wicks game. I forgot to check and see if it looks like Romeo Doubs could be back this week. Regardless, Josh Jacobs, Packers defense in a rainy game, getting some turnovers from Geno. Then in a game where I was like, this is just too many points, I'm going to Pittsburgh plus 5.5. And part of this is I think the Eagles could win this game, but I think what keeps me feeling good about having 5.5 points is the field goal kicking for the Eagles is not a strength, and the field goal kicking for the Steelers is a strength. And I think Mike Tomlin will take points whenever he can get them, keeping this game close. The Steelers weren't really impressive in the rewatch of the game this week. I think they really struggle without George Pickens, which should be expected. When you're missing a top 10 wide receiver in the league, your offense probably should struggle a little bit. I think he figured out a couple different things with Mike Williams. Mike Williams got called on some BS push-off. I did not like that at all. But I'll take the Steelers there. Also, too, like, is there a moment where the Eagles maybe try to force feed the ball to A.J. Brown to try to calm the seas a little bit? That's enough for me to take the very good Steelers team defense plus 5.5. Lost my spot here. And then lastly, the sign of Micah walking off the field early and just sadness and just disbelief and like, how can we be losing? We're the Cowboys. What's going on? Keep pounding. Bryce Young has looked fantastic for a month in a row. The Panthers are favorites at home. I never thought, look at this. You're like half Crocodile Dundee, half Cowboy right now. This is fantastic.
I'm doing this to tell you, Tony, that the Carolina Panthers have a 0.001% chance to win the NFC South, and it starts with a victory over them Dallas Cowboys.
Love that. Love to hear that. I told Mike on a call we had earlier this week, depending on how the offseason goes and Dan Morgan and what he can do, if Tepper just stays out of the way, might be picking the Panthers to win the NFC South because Bryce Young has looked fantastic over the last 4 weeks.
Tony. Pick him this year when the Sam Darnold runs to the Super Bowl.
Well, I'm still back in the Bucks, even though they are playing the Chargers this week. My son really wants to go to the game, so I'm probably going to be out there at SoFi on Sunday to watch that one. But I got the Panthers at home. Chuba Hubbard has been absolutely phenomenal. It was sad to see what happened to Jonathan Brooks. The same knee. It's fucking brutal to watch that kind of stuff. I know how hard these guys work all offseason just to get to this point of the year and how hard he's worked to get back there. It's just crazy. But I think Xavier Legette, little bounce back. That dude got rocked in that game twice. Once by Chauncey Gardner and once by Slay. And he had a couple of drops, none bigger than what could have been the game-winning catch on that one play. But Bryce showing some mobility, showing some downfield accuracy, did have the one pick. Adam Thielen still out there just balling, trying to be like, hey, I'm trying to make my case to be remembered. I'll just say that. He's putting up some really nice numbers in his career. There it is. I got Bengals minus 4.5 with the Titans. I got the Texans at home against the Dolphins. I got the minus 2.5. I got the Packers minus 2.5 going to Seattle. I got the Steelers going to the Eagles. I got the Steelers plus 5.5 and the Panthers at home minus 1.5. Mike, you're up.
I will say, Tony, that if your picks do good, my picks will probably do pretty good too. So that's one thing to hang your hat on this week. But the Carolina Panthers, with all that great stuff you said about them, are still on a 3-game losing streak. So I'm definitely not picking them. No way in hell. But one of the ones that I do agree with you on is that Pittsburgh Steelers pick. I think that's too many points. I think the game's going to be very, very, very close. And as much as it really hurts my fantasy matchups this week and the leagues I care about most and I want to walk out of as a champion, I think they're going to make the Eagles throw the ball to A.J. Brown more so than them have to force it to A.J. Brown, because this Steelers defense has the ability in the front seven especially to take away the rushing attack. And I think that they're going to say, like, hey, 26 ain't going to be the one that wins this war for Pennsylvania. So, unfortunately for me, I think they're going to be on their P's and Q's. I'm hoping that Saquon can still find the end zone or Saquon can still make at least a big play or two to get that fantasy total up for me. I think the Steelers are going to force Jalen Hurts to be a passer in this one. And I could see the Eagles winning by a field goal still. I can see the Steelers winning by a field goal. I already told you guys I am picking the Rams as one of my picks against the spread, plus 3 points. I think they can win this game outright, but definitely be battling the 49ers down the stretch. Another one that I have here is the Bengals -5. I'm going to keep riding the hot hand as well, Tony. The raging, angry, pissed off hot hand, as I will say. And I think Jamar Chase might start eyeing some crazy numbers at this point. And it's clear this man's he's a man on a mission to prove a point that number one is the number one receiver in the league right now. So you're gonna have to pay me more than Justin Jefferson. And Joe won't quit. So give me the Bengals to beat the Titans, who I still think have a sneaky chance at the first overall pick. It would be hilarious if Shadur Sanders is like, woo, New York. Wow, Las Vegas. Been Scott, now Joe. I've been married a long time ago. Go to the Tennessee Titans, buddy. And then I have an upset of the week here for you, Tony, in my picks. Miami Dolphins plus 2.5 points on the road against the Texans. Wait, this doesn't even make sense. Is this the spread? Do I have the right spread here?
Yeah, you have Dolphins.
Why is it so close? Damn. I think the Dolphins are going to win the game. I think we get the upset here in Miami's favor. And then my final pick, Chargers coming back home. You know the record against the spread at home, Tony?
Undefeated.
4-1 at home against the spread. We only got to beat the Bucks by 3 points, I believe. Yep, I'll take it. Give me the Chargers win by a touchdown plus against Tampa in a fun one where Tony will be there in attendance to see the start of the Panthers 0.01% chance to win the South with the Bucks loss and the Panthers win.
So
you had go over them real quick in order. Rams plus 3 over the Niners. Bengals -5 against the Titans. Steelers plus 5 against the Eagles. Dolphins plus 2.5 against the Texans. And the Chargers -3 at home, hosting Tampa.
I absolutely love that.
I don't know why you don't bet on the Chargers more with their record against the spread this year.
I've already told you this. Like, I just don't like
the best team to bet on right now. I think
they've won a lot of people a lot of money. One of the gambling shows that I watched was like people are thrilled with how the
covered again.
Chargers, yes, they've been making a lot of people a lot of money. I want to talk about your upset pick of the week because we'll wedge this in here and at the end back into the bets section here. The Texans, if they lose this game to the Dolphins, then go on the road to Kansas City, then on Christmas Day they get the Ravens.
Yikes.
Be 3 losses potentially in a row if they were to lose this game with the Dolphins, and then they get the Titans on this spot here. The Colts, on the other hand, let me bring that up because that is one where it's like I know they have the Broncos this week. Yeah. That's their toughest game remaining. They get past the Broncos, then they get a game at home against the Titans, the Tommy DeVito, New York Giants, and then they finish with the Jaguars, who are already gassing up Jets for vacation. So if they get past the Broncos, the Colts could go on a 4-game win streak. And then
that's why the Broncos need to just dead it all right now. Like, AFC set, we're done. It's over. Go ahead, Denver. This is the only time I root for the Broncos. So like, let's just wrap it up. Lock the Chargers spot in, lock the Broncos spot in, lock the Texans spot in, lock everyone's spots in.
This is a really good game for us, like, because one of these teams catches an L. It's better for us if the Colts win, I think. I don't want to jinx that because of those final 3 games.
Well, I think that the Broncos would have a chance to avenge it against us and then be right back in. So, like, if the Colts lose, it just closes it up. It's just booked. Like, the Chargers can go from 5 to 7. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I do think that, and especially then the Texans winning that game. I forgot that I cut up this clip from last week because Mike was so spot on about this. I was supposed to play this at the top of the bets. I'll play it at the end of the bets, and then we'll go on to the game of the week.
This made me look good before, Tony.
Here's a hot take for this game. Cleveland goes from 500 yards, 30-plus points last week through the air to less than 250 passing yards and less than 10 points this week against the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
I was at 50%, by the way, when I said that.
Yes, you were battling a cold. You were you're not doing well. We appreciated you gutting it out. You were it was, I think they scored 14 points. They were under the 250. It was everything you said. I could have made that a longer clip, but everything you said about that game was spot on as to what was going to happen for Cleveland. And yeah, I root
you watch
for
a lot
Jameis.
of football, Tony. You do it all the time too. You just start to pick up on certain tendencies throughout years, and you see backup quarterbacks go off all the time and then just absolutely go the other way the next week because they put all their good stuff on film and it's going to get shut down.
Yeah, they did. They really missed some opportunities. I texted you about that. I think the Browns really missed some opportunities. It's one of my worries about the Steelers right now is that they are winning these games in ways that I'm
That's
not
why
sure
I want them, man. I would like that round one matchup. I would.
I'm not sure that they win some of these ways against certain playoff teams, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, when they get there. And then it just makes the fans come out and say crazy shit about Mike Tomlin, where I'm I honestly don't even know what you guys are watching. Let's go to the game of the week. 5th down. This could have been Steelers, Eagles. I chose the Bills, Lions because this is a game of Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills had just one of a track meet fun games of the year. That Bills Rams game was exciting with block kicks and Josh Allen running in 3 touchdowns. It was a ton of fun. And then to see Stafford and Nakua out there's a couple of catches that Nakua made where you're how does a guy this big have that much body control on the sideline like that? It's doesn't make sense with gravity. Some of the stuff that he was.
He's quickly just becoming one of my favorite players in the league because it's that I don't know. It's inside of him. You can't see it.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
French
call that je ne sais quoi, my friend. That's, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it means.
He doesn't run a 4-3. It doesn't add up at all. But it's just in there, and it's a lot like his buddy Cooper Kupp.
Oh, there's been a lot of players like that over the years where you just watch them and you're
Steve Smith.
I don't see how this. I don't see how this works in sort of the packaging in the athletics, and how everybody else is out there, and it's just well, I'm just going to dominate you. It's just a will thing. It's I just will do this because I can, because I want to, because I've prepared to do this. So, yeah, the game was so much. It was so much fun.
It's Calvin Johnson being born in a regular person's body, and he still plays like Calvin Johnson. It's insane to watch. It's unbelievable. I think Puka Nacua is one of the future wide receivers of the league.
He's phenomenal. He's a bit older and had some injury concerns. Those are some of the things I worry about for him. But staying healthy for another 3-4 years and into his early 30s could put together a nice career, especially if they find a way to transition a quarterback. But let's talk about the Lions side of this, where you put up that video. We talked about it last week where I was rattling off names. And then later I saw your video come out with where you go through every name. It's literally a starting defense that's on IR for the Lions, and their defense just continues to attack and be better. And I think part of the reason for that is because of how dominant the offense is. Teams know they're going to have to score points. So the Lions defense, and Aaron Glenn's done a great job. And I think if I had to guess, he kind of feels like the next Saints head coach. But like a position like that where I could see him. I could see him ending up there. I could see the Saints going, yeah, let's bring in this guy here. Let's go ahead and let's bring some of that good magic, whatever they have going on up there in Detroit. Let's bring it down here. The Lions are in a spot where they are so physically dominant on offense and maintaining these super long possessions that like the defense is just able to compete. Making that move for Za'Darius Smith is great. Aleen McNeil is one of those guys that a lot of the average fan doesn't really know how good of a player he is. The Lions do. They gave him a contract extension, and then they're getting good play from the back end. Brian Branch is going to compete for all-pro honors this year. I think him and Derwin James have been consistently two of the best safety/nickel, all-around, do-it-all type defenders in the entire NFL this year. So I really look forward to watching this game. Again, this will be the first game that I rewatch Monday morning when I get up, just seeing like, how it shook out, trying to find those extra little details of like what were the separators in this. But I think ultimately the separator for me, Mike, is just going to be what I think the offensive line of the Lions is going to be able to do at home with a home field advantage. Having the Bills hit a little bit of a skid here, and then all the fans just jumping off the bandwagon. Like I think the Lions are going to find a way to win this game, 27-24 type game at home.
Yeah, I mean, the games this week are unbelievable, like to a point that they got me staying home to watch them. That's how freaking awesome the games are. I want to see the Eagles-Steelers game. I want to see the Bills-Lions game, and this Bills-Lions game specifically because these are the two teams that I feel like, or I felt like, now are having cracks in the ship because of injuries, or the teams that the Chiefs cannot get through. That these were the two teams that stood in their way and said no to the three-peat. And with what the Bills defense just gave up to the Rams, and I always have said this, Tony, since day one, that I think their defense is extremely thin. And there's some players that have played amazing that I didn't even expect to play at the level that they're playing this year. That's put them, still top 10 caliber defense in the NFL, but it's starting to let up. The more and more guys they lose, the more and more guys get banged up. And on the Lions side of things, they do have the depth to survive this. We're clearly seeing it, but it's almost getting too much. It's an avalanche at this point. We're talking about half a roster. I was seeing some comments. People are going, oh, Dan Campbell can survive this. Dan Campbell can survive this. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about a UFL team at this point on defense. It's not. It's piling up to a point that I'm really starting to worry about both these teams. So I need to see this game to see if either of these teams can put these defensive worries to bed against absolutely lethal offenses. There's no worry about Josh Allen and this Bills offense and what they're going to do in this run in the playoffs and in this game. And there's no worry the Lions offense can put on the football field. It's the defensive side of the ball. Who's going to step up? I personally think the Bills have the horses to do it, to throw at this Lions offense and slow them down enough for Josh Allen to win a high-scoring game. But we'll see how it goes. I'm picking the Bills to win the game, but I'm definitely not putting any of my picks on them, not putting any of my money on them because I have no confidence after seeing Matthew Stafford and the Rams offense as a whole just completely light them up this last week. I hope that both defenses look good, and this is lower scoring than I expected to be.
Yeah, I definitely think this is lower scoring. I thought that the Rams and the Bills had a real shot because you had two quarterbacks that are, like when you get two guys that can throw the ball that well in a controlled environment, then it tends to be that way. And you have Puka and you have Cooper available to you out there. It's like McVay is going to throw the ball a lot. He's going to score. Play and keep up with the Bills. Rams get that big, punt block touchdown, which I think was it kind of put the game always like a step away from where Allen was able to control it. The end of the game time management thing. I understand what Tom Brady was saying. I'm probably trying to throw it too. I think if you have Keon Coleman, or Kincaid, maybe you can isolate and get a fade ball, try and get an easy score that way before you try to do the run in. this, I think this game to me, Mike, and it's not a prediction. I kind of wish it could just be the rule. If you get to the minus 45, so if you get to your own 45-yard line, you can't punt on fourth down. I don't think either of these teams want to punt or give the ball back. I think McDermott plays aggressive, and Dan Campbell gets out of bed aggressive. I would assume there's a hole, like from the first moment he gets out and just stomps on the floor there. Like Dan Campbell lives aggressively. So minus 45 or better, I don't think either of these teams are punting the ball. They're like, man, we're not giving it back to that guy. We're not giving it back to that offense to play ball control. Like we will see a fun game. It's exciting.
This to me right now, Tony, I don't know how you feel about it. This to me is the most entertaining Super Bowl matchup we have on the table this year. This is the one. This will be that historic classic back and forth game that we dream of to be the championship game every year. I just hope that they can make it there. It's getting thin for both sides.
Well, I'm just going to throw out Chargers Vikings just because I think
that's
right
what no one would expect. Yeah, for sure. And me and my buddy have an oath that I have to go to it. We have to go to it if this happens.
I love that. You know, what's funny about that is like, I think that's the Super Bowl that fans would be like least excited to see. Like they'd be like Sam Darnold, and then the amount of hate.
Yeah, we have Herbert and stuff, but we run the crap out of the ball.
Herbert's in the Super Bowl. He only threw
150
18
yards
touchdowns in the regular season this year. It's like, oh my gosh, please stop. Just please watch the game. Just watch some of the throws that Herb was making against the Chiefs last week. It's every week he just is. He's incredible. This has been another absolute delightful way to spend an hour of my time. Anybody who's come across Fifth Down, please consider subscribing, liking, telling a friend if they like talking about football. We like talking about football. We're continue to kick things up here. We'll do a lot more come the off season, get schedules and everything lined up. But we appreciate your time, and as always, I hope all of your teams win this Sunday. We got 16 games. We're back. No more buys for the rest of the year. Excited about that. Mike, anything you got to tell people before we get out of here?
Everyone like the video? Comment who you got between some of these close games. Rams, 49ers, Eagles, Steelers, Lions, Bills. We want to know what you guys think too, if you're listening.
It's going to be so awesome. Who do we got? We got Jets. I forget who the Jets are playing. I think they forgot who they're playing.